When AMD reported another strong quarter, most investors focused on the familiar numbers: revenue, earnings, and AI growth. But just a few days later, AMD made another announcement that received far less attention. The company agreed to acquire Taalas, a small AI inference silicon startup. At first glance, it looked like a routine acquisition. But what if this wasn't about adding another small company? What if it was another piece of a much bigger strategy? Over the past 2 years, AMD has quietly acquired a series of AI companies, each filling a different gap in its technology stack. So perhaps the real story isn't this quarter's earnings at all. Perhaps the real story is that AMD is steadily building something much bigger than a chip business. In this video, we'll explore why the Taalas deal may tell us more about AMD's long-term AI ambitions than the earnings report itself. When AMD reported its latest quarterly results, the headlines were exactly what you would expect. Revenue reached another record, the data center business continued to deliver exceptional growth, and management reaffirmed strong demand for AI infrastructure. By almost every financial measure, it was an excellent quarter. But here's why this story goes beyond the earnings. Financial results tell us how AMD performed over the last 3 months. They don't tell us where the company is positioning itself for the next 5 years. To understand that, we need to look beyond the income statement and pay close attention to management's actions. And just days after reporting these strong results, AMD made another move that could reveal far more about its long-term AI ambitions than the earnings report itself. Just days after reporting strong earnings, AMD announced an agreement to acquire Taalas, a startup that most investors had probably never heard of. It wasn't a billion-dollar acquisition, and it certainly didn't dominate the financial headlines. So it's fair to ask, why does this deal matter? The answer isn't the size of the acquisition, it's the timing. AMD could have waited. Instead, management chose to announce another AI investment immediately after one of its strongest quarters. That suggests this wasn't about making headlines. It was about reinforcing a long-term strategy. To understand why, we first need to understand what Taalas actually does, and why AMD believes that technology could become an important piece of its AI roadmap. To understand why AMD acquired Taalas, we first need to understand the difference between AI training and AI inference. Training is the process of teaching an AI model using enormous amounts of data and computing power. But once that model is trained, the real challenge begins: serving millions of users quickly, efficiently, and at the lowest possible cost. That's called AI inference, and it's becoming one of the fastest-growing segments of the AI market. Taalas specializes in technology designed to make AI inference faster and more efficient by optimizing models for dedicated silicon. In other words, AMD didn't acquire Taalas simply to add another chip design. It acquired expertise that could help make its future AI platforms more efficient, more scalable, and ultimately more competitive as AI adoption continues to expand. For the past few years, the AI industry has been obsessed with one thing: training larger and more powerful models. That created enormous demand for high-performance GPUs. But as more AI applications move into the hands of businesses and consumers, the industry's priorities are beginning to change. Companies are no longer asking only how to build the next frontier model. They're asking how to deploy those models to millions of users while reducing cost, power consumption, and response time. In other words, AI inference is becoming just as important as AI training. This shift creates a new competitive landscape, and AMD clearly wants to be part of it. The Taalas acquisition isn't simply about buying technology, it's about preparing AMD for the next stage of the AI revolution. When most people think about AMD, they think of CPUs and GPUs. And while those products remain at the heart of the business, AMD's strategy has clearly evolved. Today, the company is investing across nearly every layer of the AI infrastructure stack. It offers ePYC CPUs for servers, Instinct accelerators for AI workloads, ROCm as its open software platform, Pensando technology for networking, ZT systems for rack-scale AI infrastructure, and now Taalas to strengthen AI inference capabilities. Individually, each investment may seem incremental. But together, they reveal a much larger vision. AMD isn't trying to compete with a single AI chip. It's building an integrated AI platform that can address the growing needs of hyperscalers, enterprises, and cloud providers. That's a very different strategy from simply launching the next generation of GPUs. The Taalas acquisition didn't happen in isolation. Over the past 2 years, AMD has steadily acquired companies that strengthen different parts of its AI ecosystem. It acquired Silo AI to expand its AI software capabilities, ZT Systems to accelerate rack-scale AI infrastructure, Semi to enhance silicon photonics expertise, and now Taalas to deepen its position in AI inference. Each company addresses a different challenge, but together they point in the same direction. AMD isn't simply adding new technologies, it's assembling the critical building blocks needed to compete across the entire AI value chain. This is exactly why the Taalas announcement matters. By itself, it's a relatively small acquisition. But viewed as part of a broader pattern, it becomes another signal that AMD is executing a long-term plan to become a full-stack AI company. The AI industry is becoming increasingly complex. Customers no longer want to buy individual components and integrate everything themselves. Instead, they are looking for complete solutions that combine compute, networking, software, and optimized AI deployment into one seamless platform. That's exactly where AMD is heading. By combining ePYC processors, Instinct accelerators, ROCm software, rack-scale systems from ZT Systems, and now AI inference expertise from Taalas, AMD is gradually building a much broader AI ecosystem. This strategy not only strengthens AMD's product portfolio but also makes it easier for customers to deploy AI at scale. In the future, success in AI won't be determined by who builds the fastest chip alone. It will depend on who delivers the most complete and efficient platform, and AMD is clearly positioning itself for that future. If you listen carefully to AMD's recent earnings calls and public presentations, you'll notice a consistent message from CEO Lisa Su. She rarely talks about winning with a single product. Instead, she emphasizes building an open AI ecosystem, expanding enterprise adoption, and delivering complete AI solutions for customers. In other words, AMD's strategy has never been just about launching a better GPU. It's about creating an AI platform that customers can build on for years to come. That's why the Taalas acquisition shouldn't come as a surprise. It reinforces a strategy management has been communicating for quite some time. The earnings report showed that AMD's AI business is growing today, but this acquisition shows that management is already investing for the next phase of AI growth. Quarterly earnings are important because they measure execution. They show whether a company is delivering on its promises today. But long-term value is often created by the strategic decisions that won't fully pay off for several years. That's why the Taalas acquisition deserves attention. It tells us that AMD isn't managing the business quarter by quarter. Instead, it's investing ahead of where it believes the AI industry is heading. If AI inference becomes a much larger market over the next decade, as many industry analysts expect, then building those capabilities today could give AMD a stronger competitive position tomorrow. For long-term investors, that's the key insight. The real question isn't whether this acquisition changes next quarter's results. It's whether it helps AMD build a more durable AI platform for the next generation of computing. Of course, building a full-stack AI platform is far more difficult than acquiring a few promising companies. Every acquisition has to be successfully integrated into AMD's existing products, software, and long-term roadmap. At the same time, AMD is competing against well-established players with mature AI ecosystems and strong customer relationships. Success will depend not only on innovation, but also on execution, how quickly AMD can combine its hardware, software, networking, and inference technologies into a seamless solution that customers are willing to adopt at scale. In other words, the biggest challenge isn't whether AMD has a compelling vision. The real challenge is turning that vision into a platform that consistently delivers value for enterprise customers. That's the hurdle investors should continue to watch over the next several years. One reason investors may be underestimating AMD is that many still view it primarily as a semiconductor company. But management's actions suggest a much broader ambition. Through investments in AI accelerators, networking, software, rack-scale infrastructure, and now AI inference, AMD is gradually building the foundation of a complete AI platform. That transformation won't happen overnight, and it won't be reflected in a single quarter's earnings. But if AMD successfully executes this strategy, today's acquisitions could eventually be seen as much more than incremental technology deals. They could become the building blocks of a company competing across the entire AI infrastructure ecosystem. In other words, the market may still be focused on AMD's products, while management is focused on building a platform. And that difference in perspective could become increasingly important over the coming years. When AMD reported strong earnings, it confirmed that the company is benefiting from today's AI boom. But the Taalas acquisition tells a different story. It shows that management isn't satisfied with competing only in today's market, they're preparing for the next phase of AI. Whether this strategy ultimately succeeds will depend on execution, customer adoption, and AMD's ability to integrate all the pieces into a truly competitive AI platform. But one thing is already clear. The company's ambition now extends far beyond building faster chips. It's about becoming a key player across the AI ecosystem. And perhaps that's the biggest takeaway from this week's news. The most important announcement wasn't just another strong quarter, it was another signal that AMD is quietly building its long-term AI future. As always, this video is not financial advice. Please do your own research before making any investment decisions. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next equity research.